Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called A Vision of Hell, written by EchoingCascade. 3 VIPs led to a small meeting room inside the unassuming building in a Terran Alliance-controlled planet. Inside, a man wearing a military uniform from a nondescript branch waited for the VIPs to sit down and their guards to leave the room to commence the debriefing.
What you are about to see and hear is currently classified information. The purpose of this impromptu gathering is to decide if it should remain so.
All 3 VIPs nodded and turned to look at the screen that had turned on. One of them couldn't help but scream at what he saw. "Oh, by the gods!" On the screen was a man, or what remained of a man, calmly sitting in front of a camera as everything around him burned. "Yes, this is the after-action report of a mission in another castle." Captain Crane wasn't happy. He and his team had received orders to mount a rescue mission. The target, Princess Yumi Duval, and an unknown number of survivors. Normally, rescuing a princess is something of a dream job and a task that we would do in our sleep. But the goddamn location. The location was an Insu colony on the edge of Sector 17, a colony that was under suspicion of skilled infestation, carnivorous psychic bugs. I don't know what God came up with that idea, but he deserves a beating. The princess and her delegation had gone to evaluate the situation and calm the population. After a week of radio silence, orders to glass the colony had been sent. The venerable young man was dispatched. The heavy command cruiser was on its way to sterilize the colony when they heard a message playing on loop.
"We managed to lock ourselves in a vault. Please get us out of here. We have enough air and food for a couple more days. But after that..."
The message was audio only, and the technicians managed to identify the voice as that of the princess. The mission shifted from glassing, followed by search and destroy, to rescue. I've racked my brain around a non-suicidal plan, but the best I can come up with is a 4-man team assisted by a war gear. A war gear was a heavily armed humanoid combat platform. It would be remote controlled from a venerable young man by Specialist Jonas. Lucky bastard. Time to give the good news to Valkyrie, Loki, and Doc. "Boss, if you want me dead, I have this perfectly good gun in my bunk. Just give me a minute to get it. No need for all these theatrics." Usually these kinds of jokes would be met with a few nervous laughs or at least a reprimand from Valkyrie, but even the stoic woman nodded in agreement.
"Captain, this is suicide. We may not know the exact reproduction rate of the skillids, but it's safe to assume the number is in the thousands at the very least. How are we supposed to achieve our objective, outnumbered several thousand to 1?
Captain Crane sighed. He had asked himself the same question over and over. He didn't like the answer any more than she did. "We can't land in Valsvelk. The bugs would notice our presence, and the fact that they seem unaware of survivors is the only thing keeping them alive. The only chance that we have is to move stealthily towards the vault. Doc patches up the survivors enough so that we can move them, and then Jonas makes a distraction while we make our escape."
I can't be the only one who sees the multitudes of ways in which this can fail miserably, right?
Everyone in the room voiced their agreement. Everyone except Doc. "I don't know, Valk. I think it could work." Loki snorted. "Oh, please. We've all seen the princess's poster above your bed. The only part of you currently thinking it would work is between your legs." Doc turned beet red and shrank into himself. "Listen, we don't have a choice. We have orders, and as crappy as the plan is, it's the best one we've got. We depart tomorrow at 0400. Dismiss." After they landed their stealth shuttle near the edge of the city, they began operation in another castle. The war gear took the lead, followed by Cap, Valk, Doc, and Loki. Doc was nervous, understandably so. Gods, I feel undergeared for this. Unlike the 3 other Marines who each wore War Destroyer heavy armor, he was wearing his combat fatigues and ceramic body armor. a handheld flamethrower on his hip, and a backpack filled with medical supplies. Doc looked at Vulk, her armor a masterpiece of functional beauty. A neo-steel chassis covered by ceramic plates, powered by synthetic muscles, and in her hands a heavy grenade launcher that would normally be mounted on an APC. Cap preferred a good old pulse plasma rifle, while Loki's model was reinforced for close quarters combat, and his only weapons were 2-ton gauntlets on each hand. The war gear was the most reassuring presence to Doc. Standing at nearly 11 feet tall, it towered over the rest of the team. It was armed with dual Hellfire napalm launchers mounted on its shoulders, a fission minigun as its main armament, and could take a direct hit from a tank without any damage to show from it. Jonas is the best gear pilot we got in the whole battalion. Hopefully, we won't have to prove it on this mission. Loki was calm. The nerves he felt before a mission had faded the moment he put on his armor. With this baby on, nothing can hurt me. He knew this wasn't true, but he somehow always managed to convince himself of this while on field. A trick that had allowed him to keep his cool when others would have panicked or begun to jump at shadows. This is why the following was taken very seriously by everyone. Loki suddenly turned his head to 3 o'clock. Anyone see that? They all turned as one to face the direction Loki was pointing.
I've got nothing on sensors.
Nothing here. I don't see anything. The war gear's minigun barrels began to spin as Jonas swore from his pod aboard the venerable young man. Change your plans. Run to the city. I'll hold them off. Go! As the ground began to shake from the team's 3 o'clock, the war gear began to fire, gouging huge holes in the ground. With every shot, black/red ichor would fountain out. The war gear had sensors the marine armor didn't. One of those was the echolocator that had found the hundreds of termites-like skillets quickly burrowing towards them. I guess Loki saw dust from the digging or something. Jonas didn't have much more time to muse about the situation. The dog-sized insects had begun to spring out of the ground. He engaged the Hellfire launchers when they began to get too close. Frack me, they're too far to run back to the shuttle. I need to make sure that they focus on me, or they're all dead. Jonas controlled the war gear thanks to a neural link, so he felt what the machine sensors registered as pain, and yet it was taken apart, bite by vicious bite. He never stopped shooting, stomping, punching, or roding to make himself a target. Eventually, the link was broken, and he emerged from his pod, vomiting. A couple of techs approached him and helped him to his feet. Tell Commander the mission is FUBA. They need extraction now. Loki had picked up Doc and carried him like a bag of potatoes as he, Velk, and Cap ran for their lives. They managed to reach the city unchallenged by some miracle. They took shelter inside a small drugstore to regroup. Damage report!
5x5.
I'm good. Supplies are okay. Everything but long-range communications is functional. Cap and everyone else knew what he meant. The war gear served as a hard relay to the venerable young man, and if they lost comlink to the ship, it meant that it was offline. Do we remote control the shuttle to come pick us up? Negative. We need a defendable position, preferably from high ground, to have any chance at evac, and besides, we still have a mission. The mood was somber, but no one argued. Luckily, we're not too far from the bank where the princess and the survivors are holed up. They made their way to the impressively large bank, advancing slowly, moving from building to building. The lights and automatic public transport still functioned. The singularity reactor the colony ran on would continue to power it for decades. The city was in perfect order, except it was completely devoid of life. It felt like walking inside a freshly dug grave, a warm body just around the corner. There wasn't even a sign that anything had happened to the population. No blood smears, or even a dropped item on the ground. Nothing was out of place, and yet they knew the entire population was dead. This was bullcrap. Valkyrie had always known she would die inside her armor. This never really bothered her, but from what she had read on the skillets, dying was something of a luxury. I'm gonna die attempting to save a fracking princess, eaten alive by bugs while I'm either screaming or unaware of it happening. A terrible thought began to take form as she stopped moving. I know what you're thinking, Velk. They haven't gotten into your head. Keep your cool. Focus on the mission and we'll get through this, okay? Velk nodded, and she resumed taking point for the final leg of the trip. As they entered the bank, they were shocked to find the princess waiting for them. She explained that the faulty air duct had forced them to leave the vault early, and that she had taken it upon herself to gather some food for the other survivors. All 5 of them were in the upper floor of the bank. Doc had checked the princess for injuries, and when he declared her perfectly fit, she had kissed him on the cheek. Velk and Loki gave him crap for it, but Cap looked worried. They started to climb up the stairs, Doc in front, following the princess like a love-sick puppy. She's tired, but she still has her supermodel good looks. Doc couldn't help but put his hand to his cheek every time she looked back at him. It had become something of a tick. They found the remaining survivors, and while Doc checked them over, Cap ordered Loki and Velk to secure the roof access to call the shuttle, while he doubled back to ensure that they hadn't been followed. Doc found them all fit to be moved, but something bothered him, something he couldn't quite put into words. Cap, I don't know how to say this, but something feels off about them. It's like... Cap didn't let him finish his sentence. He primed an incendiary grenade, tossed it at the 5 survivors, and shot the princess in the chest. Doc was going to scream at him when he noticed the princess's body. It was partially decomposed, most of the skin was gone, replaced by some sort of transparent gelatin. Her arms and legs moved in a fashion that made it clear that she no longer had bones. On her chest was a large scarab-like creature with a hole created by Cap's rifle on it, but it wasn't until he saw her head that he threw up. Everything above her jaw was gone. Instead, a large bulbous larva head protruded from her throat. Oh gods! Cap grabbed the flamethrower from Doc's hip and began burning the thing, which didn't scream in pain, but instead pleaded for help in a relaxed manner.
It hurts, Doc. Please tell your friend to stop. Now I can make all your fantasies come true.
Doc looked at the survivors, which now looked like nothing more than egg sacs. Come on, we have to leave. No sooner had he finished saying that the walls began to crack and insects poured from them, small at first, but larger as the cracks widened. By the time they had made it to the corridor leading to the roof stairs, human-sized cockroaches were hot on their heels. Before they could get to them, however, Velk's grenade launcher barked in objection. A mantis roach hybrid dropped from the ceiling on top of Velk. Loki pulverized its head with a front kick. The creature didn't die, however. It began to try and swipe at Loki with its scythes. He'd seen this coming and managed to catch both with his gauntlet arms. The thing still seemed to try to chew his face off by pure instinct, even though it no longer had a head, spilling black ichor all over Loki's armor. Where are the survivors? Oh, there are no survivors. Those were bugs. What the frack do you... He was cut short as he saw the walls come down one after another behind Cap and Doc. Frack me! A millipede big enough to swallow the war gear had emerged.
We'll hold it off. Get the frack out of here.
She unloaded on the bugs and wielded the launcher as the club when it ran dry. Loki trying to get as many bugs off of her back as possible. Doc and Cap saw them being overrun by insects as the shuttle doors closed. Doc was catching his breath while at the shuttle commands. He was a de facto pilot without Velk present. What the hell happened over there, Cap? Cap lowered his visor and rubbed his temples. Skin-colored paint came off and 2 metal implants became visible. I had side happeners installed. They're prototypes. I saw the princess for what she was from the start, and classified files pointed to scarabs as the most powerful psychics. Why not kill her, on the spot? I wanted to get all the survivors. Doc remembered reading something about side happeners, so that made sense. But then he remembered something else. He remembered the kiss, and he felt the urge to touch his cheek again. Cap stopped his hand. It's okay, Doc. Nothing happened. How can you be so sure? You're wearing your armor. Nothing happened. Doc looked down at the War Destroyer's heavy armor that he was wearing, and for a fleeting moment, he was reassured. Then he grabbed his flamethrower from Cap's hand, shoved it into his commanding officer's open helmet, and pulled the trigger. Then why the frack can't I remember even putting this thing on? The inhuman screeching was all the answer he got. Doc then looked down at his uniform and saw nothing but his fatigues and ceramic body armor. He took his flamethrower and set the whole shuttle ablaze, and began recording his AAR. I believe the lava-like creatures swallowed the princess's larynx and used it like a wind instrument to lure us in. They are far smarter than previously believed. Doc scratched his cheek, or rather, his teeth. The flesh was gone. He didn't feel anything anymore, not even the heat of the flames. The plan was probably for us to take the survivors back to the venerable young man and use it as a springboard to infect more colonies. And once I figured something was wrong, they shifted to keeping me and Cap alive to do the same. Multiple alarms began to blare behind Doc. They could figure out how to speak, probably by probing a nearby living human mind, and how to record a message, but not how to fly a shuttle. Glass every planet infested by skillet. Do not attempt to rescue, not even if you hear your loved ones beg for your help. And if you have to send in troops, deploy war gears only. They have no mind to fool, which is why I think they targeted it first. Doc grabbed a grenade from his belt and pulled the pin. Make sure everybody knows what happened here. The video stopped. The analyst turned off the recording.
The stealth shuttle's black box was recovered by the evac team coming to help Captain Crane and his team. Once the video was found, it was sent to us immediately after glassing the planet, that is. The VIPs were in shock. They all heard of skillets. They all knew what they could do. At least, they used to believe so.
Send the video to every branch of the military and make an audio-only file to distribute to the civilians' media. Everyone needs to know a threat with a skillet really pose.
The other two VIPs slowly nodded after thinking it over. As they left the building, the VIPs were still shaken. One wondered if Vulcan Loki was still alive when the planet was nuked. Another on how quick Cap was taken over once he was separated from the group. But all three were terrified by Doc's warning. Do not attempt to rescue, not even if you hear your loved ones beg for your help. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.